Hello, and thank you for having me. I'm Peter Kelly, President of Car Global. You might know us better by some of our subsidiary brands, such as ADESA, AFC, TradeRev, Autonique, and many more. As I was preparing for this session today, I was thinking, what is it that independent dealers need to know today? Because as we've seen, a lot has changed over the past 7 months. In fact, principally because of the coronavirus pandemic, this year has probably been the strangest year that many of us have experienced in business. We are in a fundamentally different place than most of us would have predicted at the start of this year. It's true that the pandemic has had a direct impact on the automotive industry and on the used vehicle retail business. So now that we're about 7 months in, what does it all mean? Today, I'm going to try and provide some perspectives on just that and offer what I hope are some useful thoughts as we think about finishing this year as strongly as possible and building a successful business in 2021. To help me prepare for today, I did have conversations with a number of NIADA members, and you will see excerpts from those conversations in this presentation here today. And finally, before I get started, I want to point out that if you have questions or comments, feel free to drop them into the chat feature, and I or a member of my team will get back to you as quickly as we can. So with that, I'd like to start with two important points to get us grounded. Now, these two things are not new necessarily, but they're things that the advent of COVID has really solidified, at least in my mind. And the first of these is, though we operate in a large and complex industry that includes motor manufacturers, automotive dealers, and service providers, fundamentally there is one thing that unites us all, and that is that we're all in the business of providing consumers with safe and reliable transportation. Safe and reliable transportation. It's much more than selling that next car. And nothing has demonstrated that like COVID. Consumers need to get to work, they need to go to the store, and they need to get their kids to school. And they need to do that safely and securely. A privately owned vehicle truly is the best means to that end. And the COVID crisis has shown just how important that vehicle is to all of us. In this age of social distancing and masking, the bus or the train doesn't feel as safe to many consumers today. Neither does Uber, Lyft, or the airplane. But studies show that people generally feel safe and secure in their own vehicle. So there's no doubt that private vehicle ownership is seeing a rebound through COVID. In fact, 93% of people say they're now relying on their personally owned vehicle more than they were before. And for tens of millions of consumers out there, a good quality used vehicle is exactly what they need. Fundamentally, that is great news for our industry and great news for the NIADA. However, over the past few months, given disruptions to new vehicle supply and given constraints in used vehicle supply, there's been an imbalance between this increased consumer demand and reduced industry supply. And this has made good quality used vehicles harder to find than ever and has driven a significant increase in used vehicle pricing across the country. So it's created opportunity, but also some challenges. And for the second key point, our future will be increasingly digital, and the last 7 months have accelerated a digital transformation that was already well underway. I think we've all seen this in our own personal lives as well as in our business. Just think about how ubiquitous digital technologies are and how important they are in our lives today. Most of us cannot get through our day without multiple repeated interactions with companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and so on. And now with COVID, we can add some new names to that list, companies like Zoom. You can see the effect of this in the stock market. The valuations of those companies that I mentioned were already high at the start of the year, but they've grown tremendously since then, as investors bet on an increasingly digital future for all of us. Whereas valuations for much of the rest of the stock market have struggled. COVID has driven massive increases in online shopping across most categories of retail. In fact, data shows that more than 77% of Americans are adopting new online purchasing behaviors, such as buying online for pickup at the store or curbside, home delivery, contactless delivery services, all as a result of COVID-19. We're seeing whole industries change. Movie theaters have been closed for months, and we're seeing big budget movies getting direct released to online streaming services like Disney Plus and Netflix. The digital transformation has also impacted the used vehicle retail business. 92% of auto retail shoppers already do their research online. And recent surveys show that 18% of auto shoppers would buy a vehicle sooner if an online purchase option was available to them. Across this country, we've seen a rapid adoption by dealers of various digital retailing solutions to help and enable and accelerate their business and help them reach those online consumers. We've seen digital leaders like Carvana and Vroom experience incredible growth and also achieve market valuations that are considerably higher than their brick and mortar competitors. And we see it also on the wholesale side of our business. When we moved to a fully digital model back in March, we knew we would be dependent on our online tools like ADESA.com, ADESA Simulcast, and TradeRev. And we weren't sure how those online tools would perform. The good news is we've seen tremendous progress and tremendous adoption of these tools by dealers. Thousands of dealers using these tools every week, record high conversion rates, strong vehicle values, and ultimately record-breaking results in all of our digital channels. So there's no doubt we are living in a changing world. The question is, what are we to do about it? And more specifically, what can you as an independent dealer do about it? To help answer this question, I talked with a number of NIADA members to learn about their experiences. I also looked at our experiences here at CAR, what has worked, even looking at the areas where maybe we weren't as successful as we hoped. And finally, I looked at some trends across other industries. And I landed on 3 key takeaways or 3 keys to success as we think about the future. And I want to share those with you here today. The first takeaway is that digital is here to stay, and let's embrace it. I was just talking about how our world is becoming more and more digital. My advice to you today is let's not bury our head in the sand and hope that it all changes back to the way it was. That's probably not going to happen. Instead, my advice is to embrace that more digital future. Let's face the facts, your customer is already online. According to research from Google Think, we know that consumers spend about 3 months deciding what car they're going to buy. Over those 3 months, they have literally hundreds of digital interactions, researching the vehicles, looking up different models, looking up different dealers, etc. So by the time the consumer gets to their lot, if they even make it that far, they're more prepared than ever they were before. By the time they get to the showroom, many of them have already made the decision on what car they buy, or they're very, very close to the finish line. And we know that over the past 7 months, if anything, this trend has only accelerated further. So what should you be doing about that? To help answer that question, let's listen to what Jeff Long, founder and co-owner of Noblesville Imports in Noblesville, Indiana, had to say on this topic.
How do you get the word out to your customer base out there? What avenues do you use to let them know what inventory you have? How much do you rely on foot traffic versus digital tools, etc.?
Right. You know, since day one, it's really been the digital tools. It has been the third-party websites. That is where 95% of our lead sources come in, and it's all trackable. The foot source is just from the busy road outside, but it's not like the old days where people are coming in here to shop around. The internet has now provided the customer with a way to find the exact car they want, find out every feature, pull every report they need on it, and they come here ready to buy those cars. And we track all those leads through all of our sources.
So Jeff is being very forward-thinking here. I believe he's on the right path. My question to you today is, how much of your time are you devoting to building your online presence and developing online sales leads? And have you adapted that strategy since COVID? If not, why not? One thing you should be thinking about right now, how can you make it easier for your consumers to experience your dealership online and digitally? Make it easy, fast, and painless for them to learn about you, learn about the inventory you have available, and also what financing options might be available to them when they come to purchase that vehicle. Now, I know that change is hard, especially if you're looking around and thinking, you know, I've got a pretty good business. What I'm doing now seems to be working. Why should I change? But the simple fact is, digital is here to stay, and you ought to embrace it if you haven't done so already. In our business, as a wholesale auction platform and marketplace, it's no secret where we stand. Our goal is to operate the most active and successful used vehicle marketplaces for all of our customers. COVID forced us to accelerate our digital platforms. Our business had been trending more digitally over many years, but we had to speed that up through COVID. And that was really to help ensure that dealers could continue to source vehicles, even though our physical auction locations were forced to adapt to social distancing, or in some states were forced to shut down altogether. Now, some of you have been early adopters with us even before COVID. I was interested to hear what Stephen Wallace of Wallace Automotive in Martinsville, Virginia had to say on this topic about sourcing vehicles online. Let's hear what Stephen had to say.
So you're comfortable buying the cars sort of sight unseen? You don't need to kick the tires?
No, sir.
Yeah.
And all the people like the dealers around me, they like, I cannot believe you buy cars and you don't see them, touch them, feel them.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I've had better luck from Trade Rev than I've had it going to the brick and mortar auctions. By
Really?
far. Yes, sir. By far.
Now, to be very clear, we believe in a strong network of physical auction locations is critical to success on the digital front, and we don't think that's going to change. Our Odessa locations will remain the local hub for dealers and will always play a very important role in our business. But we've also spent a lot of time over the past months and years talking with you about what we could do better and how we can improve our processes. And one consistent piece of feedback, it really isn't a surprise, is that you want the experience of purchasing vehicles to be seamless and smooth, with less red tape. You want it to be more digitized, but you don't want it to feel like work. In essence, what you would like us to do is bring an Amazon-like, seamless and speedy experience to the acquisition of used vehicles. So we've heard you, and we're taking steps to transform the way we inspect cars, handle arbitrations, titles, customer support, and so forth. These are really big initiatives for us, but the goal is, no matter who our customer is and no matter what platform they're engaging with us on, they have a speedy and seamless experience when they do business with our companies. My second key to success is that great customer experiences win the day. You know, one thing I think that's noteworthy about the technology leaders of today is that they're not just technology companies. Instead, they have figured out a way to take technology and use it to create great customer experiences. And it's those great customer experiences that win the day for them. For those of you that have ever purchased an Apple product, think of how you felt when you open that box, you see the beautifully packaged product, you take it out, you press the on button, and it just works. An experience like that leaves a mark with the consumer. Or the day you ordered something on Amazon and found it was on your doorstep within a few hours. Pretty amazing how they do that. A friend of mine wanted to test drive a Tesla. They brought it out to his house. The technician was fully versed on all aspects of the vehicle, and they offered him a fixed price, no haggle transaction. He purchased the vehicle on the spot and actually upgraded to a higher option package than what he had expected he would do going in. And if you take it into the retail used vehicle space, companies like Carvana are transforming the way consumers think about how they might be able to acquire or trade in their next vehicle. Is it any wonder that these companies, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, Carvana, are growing like crazy and seeing their market valuations double and then double again? I believe the lesson here is that great customer experiences win the day. It's not just a transaction. At the end of the day, it's a relationship with the customer. And if you do it well, you get a permission slip to do more and more business with that customer over time. And that's what builds success. Now, we all know that consumers are more sophisticated than ever before. They have more data. Often they know the vehicles and the pricing better than we do. And we also know that consumers have been conditioned through these experiences with Apple and Amazon and so forth to expect more from all their other interactions, including their interactions with us. So how can we rise to meet this challenge? Well, the good news is there are tools, and again, many of these are free, some are low cost, which will help you gather feedback from your customers and help understand what they really are looking for. After you sell a car, perhaps you could send the customer a brief survey asking them about the experience and what you can do to improve it the next time. If a customer tells you they're buying from a different dealer, ask them why, and ask how you might have an opportunity to earn their business the next time. You're part of NIADA. This means you've got access to a wealth of industry information to help you understand how to build better consumer experiences through your dealership. And also, when you sell a car, if you think the consumer had a good experience, respectfully ask them if they wouldn't mind leaving a review for you on Google or Facebook or Yelp. You know, a lot of consumers look at those reviews when they're thinking about who they want to buy that next car from. You know, and I know from personal experience, when we look at those reviews, we're always looking for the 4 and 5 star rated businesses. And as a business owner, you probably know that you're going to get some negative reviews, but those will matter a lot less if you've got a lot of positive reviews out there already. At the end of the day, this online reputation will become a bigger and bigger part of your future brand, and these reviews can be very durable. But the good news is the good reviews are just as durable as the bad ones. So my advice is get out there and start building those today. Let's listen to what Jeff Long of Noblesville Imports had to say on this topic.
Yeah. In fact, I did check some of your online presence before coming here, and I was looking at your reviews, and I can see that you make a point of, if ever there's a negative review, trying to sort of get a response in there and say, hey, here's our perspective on it, or taking care of that customer. I've seen some reviews where maybe it started off at one level and then they changed it because you or somebody at the dealership. So why do you do that?
Well, reputation is everything in this business, and the smaller you are, the harder it is. We believe if you invest in the consumer and do what it takes to make them happy, your reviews will bring more volume in, and we need those type of reviews and transparency to survive.
We've already talked a lot about what CAR is doing on the customer experience front, and I don't want to repeat myself here other than to say that we're really focused on listening to our customers, and we're always interested in your feedback. We have started using a data-driven framework called the Net Promoter Score to track how our customers assess our performance at various important touch points in our business. This has been very valuable to us. We're generating a lot of very useful information. And in response to that customer feedback, we're creating centers of excellence around things like inspection and vehicle description, arbitrations, title and funds, customer support, logistics, to make these experiences better and stronger than ever before. And finally, everything you say to us, whether it's a casual conversation with a rep, whether it's a focused feedback session, or whether it's an online survey, all that data is very valuable to us. We really appreciate your feedback. My third key to success is this: data is the great equalizer. You should use it. I mentioned how we live in strange times, and it's an unfortunate fact that many businesses, particularly many small retail businesses and hospitality businesses, will not make it through the COVID period. We, on the other hand, are very fortunate that the used vehicle industry has been relatively strong, but that does not mean that we're out of the woods yet. The pressure is still on for all of us. We're likely looking at continued economic challenge in this country as we dig out from the impacts of the COVID recession and as we get back to full employment. We should expect that to take a good amount of time. One thing we hear consistently from dealers is that you're under constant pressure to keep your turn times short, but to keep your gross profit margin strong. And we recognize that those two things are difficult to do in tandem. So what can you do, and how can you change that tide? And this is where my final tip comes in. The reality is that today, I don't think it's no longer effective to rely on your instinct or your gut. Instead, leverage data. Data is the great equalizer. You should try to use it. And I know some of you are probably thinking, I've heard all this before. I've tried it. It didn't work for me. I don't have time to comb through all that data and figure out what's what. I don't even know where to start. It costs too much money. I tried it before and there was no ROI. And yes, I will acknowledge there is some validity in all of those statements, particularly in the past. But things have changed, and there are new, easy-to-use tools available to you today. And again, some of these are at low cost, some are even free. And these tools can provide you with information that will help you make smarter business decisions and run a more effective business. For instance, when sourcing inventory, perhaps there are vehicles that are further away from your dealership than you would typically look that might have a higher profit margin associated with them than the vehicles that are available in your local market. Today, it's not uncommon for us to see used vehicles moving more than 1,000 miles. And this tells us that dealers, at least some dealers, are exploiting these opportunities and building a better business from it. Some dealers that I spoke to, dealers just like you, are using data to help drive this assessment every day. And this data has really expanded the range over which they're willing to search to acquire inventory for their stores. Another example, Car Global now offers free of charge on our website access to industry dashboards that track retail and wholesale activity, both at the national and the state level, that will tell you important facts about what's going on in your market. How strong is the retail market? How strong is the wholesale market? What are the average turn times for vehicles in your market? And all this data is available to you for free. Our AutoNeek app has recently been upgraded to a new platform. It contains a wealth of easy-to-use information at a low monthly fee. Many of you are already customers. It only takes about 10 minutes to get up to speed on some of these tools and to start pulling this kind of data into decisions to help drive your business. And I think that's 10 minutes well spent. It can help give you a better gauge of what's going on in your market and whether the strategy you're using for sourcing vehicles or for sourcing retail leads is effective or needs to evolve. The point is, whatever you choose to do, this data is more readily available than ever before, and it can give you that edge to help you build an ever more successful business in the future. So, as we wrap up today, I will summarize these 3 keys to success one more time. First of all, digital is here to stay. Let's embrace it. Second, focus on the customer experience. Winning customer experiences win the day. And finally, data is the great equalizer. Use the data that's available to you. To close out this session, I asked Stephen Wallace of Wallace Automotive what advice he had for other independent dealers across the country. I'd like to share with you what he said.
My advice would 100% would be, I would buy online. I'd definitely buy from Trade Rev. Like I said, I rely on Trade Rev at least 95% of my business. And I think the digital market is the way that, everything's going to go. And I really like it. And I think it, I've had good success off of it and a whole lot better than I have had in lane. And, I think it saves you time, saves you money. You ain't got to leave your office. Because ain't nobody going to run your business like you going to run it. So if you leave and you leave somebody else in charge, they ain't going to do what you going to do, And, I think for sure, definitely the way of the future.
Stephen touched on a lot of things in his comments there, but one important point really resonated with me, and that is that nobody knows your business like you do. I think that's absolutely true. At the end of the day, you are the expert on your business, and nobody else knows it better. If I leave you with nothing else today, it would be this: be flexible and open-minded. The world today is very different from the world we knew at the start of this year. And while we hope for the best, we're by no means out of the woods yet. Steering your way to success in the future may require a different set of tools than what our industry has used in the past. Perhaps a different set of tools to what you have used in the past. So I'd encourage you to be open-minded to that and be an early adopter. Take a look at these tools, try them out, see if they work for you and for your dealership. Perhaps those will be the tools that'll give you the edge for future success. So thank you very much for your time today. I hope that this was useful, and I hope these perspectives are helpful as you think about growing your business in the future. Finally, before I hand back over to Sean Peterson, I hope you'll join me at ADESA's annual NIADA charity auction, which will be starting in a short while via ADESA Simulcast. You can check out the agenda or the Car Global booth for a link to that event. Thank you all very much. Stay safe and stay well.